I was never really a runner. The way I see running is a gift, especially when you have stage 4 cancer. I'm Anne. I'm running the Boston Marathon, presented by Bank of America. I run for Dana-Farber Cancer Institute to give people like me a chance to thrive in life, even with cancer.
Join Bank of America in helping Anne's cause. Give if you can at BofA.com/supportAnne. What would you like the power to do? References to charitable organizations is not an endorsement by Bank of America Corporation. Copyright 2025.
Hi, and welcome to the 10-Minute Food Truck Training Podcast. My name is Bill Moore. I am a food truck business trainer, author of Food Truck 101, Beginner to Winner, and the forthcoming book, Food Truck 201, Get Off the Truck. This podcast is all about helping you start and grow your food truck business. Today I'm going to talk to you guys about pager systems. Every once in a while somebody asks us what's the best pager system out there. And I want to kind of go over what a pager system does. You guys know how difficult it is to have the food ready and you're ready to hand it out to somebody and you're standing at the window hollering out a name or hollering out a number. We know that crowds will drown out our voices and the food starts to go cold or it backs up the rest of the food we got waiting to get out because we're waiting on Grandpa to show up and turn up his hearing aid and realize that, hey, somebody's out hollering his name. Food truckers resort to all different kind of ways of alerting guests that their food is up. This is known technically as the Order Up Alert System. That's the fancy name for it. And all those different ways of letting people know their food up include collecting a name and then calling it out when the food is done. We've all done that at one point or another. Sometimes a truck will call out the number that's printed on the receipt. Then they have to explain that that number is going to be called out to the guest whenever their food is done. Or they can go a little bit more clumsy and collect a cell phone or an email address and let the guest know that, hey, we'll notify you on your cell phone when your food's up. And of course, on the other end of that, that means somebody's got to type in a cell phone number and a message and then send it. Or they go out and buy pagers and they hand them out and then explain to the guest that when the food's up, this pager is going to buzz or ring or flash, whatever the pager does. And then there's some people that go out and buy a loudspeaker system thinking that the problem that guests have is not being able to hear their voice. So now they buy loudspeakers so they can really holler out the name and number. So which one of those methods is the absolute best? Yelling out a name or number is common and it has a ton of drawbacks. First, the sound of your voice may not carry far enough to gather any kind of attention. And then if somebody uses a loudspeaker system, those are just intrusive and annoying. Imagine a food truck park with only 4 or 5 food trucks and all of them decide, hey, we're going to use a loudspeaker. How long do you think it's going to be before people stop going to that particular food truck park from the constant barrage of amplified voices saying, hey, Bill, your order's up? And then what if 2 or 3 Bills happen to be in that particular food truck park at the same time? So now you got 3 dudes walking up to food trucks looking for food when really it was only one that was done. So calling out names is not the most efficient way to get people to come up to get their food. And I have had multiple people with the same name order food within a few minutes of each other. And I know it's going to be a problem. So now I got to get a last name or a last initial and then hope that the right person comes up to pick up the right food. And then, of course, if you use numbers, that prevents the same name being called out. But most food trucks use the same numbering scheme, which starts at 0, runs to 99, then it starts all over. Because they're thinking I'll never be 99 orders behind. So all food trucks think that. The problem again becomes if you're in a food truck park and you stand out and holler number 99. And if the other food trucks are also in the 90s, a bunch of folks get up and start looking for their food to be done. The other issue becomes when the guests don't pay attention which food truck is calling out the number and they've got number 80 and number 90 is being called out, they're mad, even though it may have come from a whole different food truck. They just know that somebody that in their mind ordered after them got their food before they did. When you think about yelling out names or using numbers or even using a loudspeaker, all of that is so last millennia. It's honestly time to get out of the Stone Age. So then that brings us to pagers and cell phones and emails. Pagers are the common go-to right now for new food truck owners wanting to improve communication with their guests. And that sounds smart. Well, not exactly. Food truck owners can be notoriously cheap when it comes to buying stuff, and they will buy the least expensive pager set that's available on Amazon, and they expect their Order Up Alert system to be solved. But what happens is all they've done is change the problem. Here's what pagers mean to a guest. Accept an order from a guest, you ring it up on your POS system, you put in the order number for the pager, you hand the pager to the adult who has placed the order, and the very first thing that adult is going to do is turn to one of their kids and go, here you go. Because in an adult's mind, this is an easy way to entertain the kid while you're waiting on food. Now, if you've ever paid attention to what kids do with pagers, it suddenly becomes the ball to be tossed around, tossed up in the air. How high can I throw this? Can I throw it like a frisbee? Will it bounce? They'll drop it. They'll use it for a Kleenex. They'll sit it down somewhere and go run off and play on the slides or the swings that might be available in that food truck park. And they'll promptly forget it. And of course, you don't care because, hey, you gave it to the customer and they're the ones supposed to be monitoring your property. Or if it's an adult and they just stick it in their pocket and the buzzing may not gather enough attention for them to realize, oh, hey, my food's ready. Or they decide to wander off into the bar and grab something to drink, and the pager radio waves don't penetrate the walls of the bar effectively, so it doesn't set off the pager when it should. Or they go back behind the building and use the restroom. Pager doesn't go off when it's supposed to. The guest doesn't know because they've gone farther than whatever the reach is of the pager system. Pagers operate on radio waves, and that limits their range. It also limits their ability to go through walls and around buildings. And the biggest issue that pagers have is the number of radio channels available to them. So imagine, and I have seen this happen, you're at a food truck park. It's got 4 or 5 different food trucks, and they're all using pagers. And they could all be different brands of pagers, but they use the same radio waves. So there's nobody yelling out names or numbers, and you're excited. Everybody's going to get their food, and it's going to be pretty quick. Except when the pagers go off, you see 3 people get up at the same time and walk towards 3 different trucks. But only one comes back with food because the pager system alerted through radio waves on the same radio channel all of the pagers that match that radio signal. And I've seen this many times. So you have to change the channel, and you can't do it in real time because if you change the channel, the other pagers you've already sent out now won't work. So you have to wait till you've got them all collected back up to change the signal, to change the channel. So when you realize that you have 5 people walking to 5 different food trucks and 4 of them aren't getting their food, you might think, nah, pagers aren't what they're cracked up to be. And you'd be right. And if you're the one that set off the other 4 pagers, you might think it's funny. But I can guarantee you won't think it's funny when one of the other neighboring trucks sets off your pagers. Because now you got a guest that is expecting to get food, and you have to explain what I just explained. Well, they work off radio waves, and all of us are on the same channel, and apparently we both sent out the same number pager at the same time. Now here's the thing. I mentioned changing channels. Some pager systems have multiple channels, and they're easy to change. But others don't, which means you're stuck with yours being set off by other food trucks that are around you. So what do you do if that happens? You can't change yours. You have to hope the other food trucks are willing to change their channel to get off of your channel. And you also have to hope that they weren't as cheap as you were buying a pager system that only has one channel to begin with. So what about gathering cell phone numbers or emails? Both are real clumsy, like I mentioned earlier. When the food's up, you got to pull out a cell phone and type in a number, type in a message, and then send it. Same deal with an email. You still got to populate the email address, and even if you have a copy and paste set up, it's still clumsy. It's not quick. So what can a food truck do? Well, you guys know I like Easy Eats, the POS system. That system includes things that take you out of the Stone Age. It has included with the package a kitchen display screen, which eliminates the need for paper tickets being passed back and forth from the cashier to the cook's line, because that's an archaic system that went out in the late 1990s. It also includes an order up alert system. The cashier, when she's taking the order, says, hey, can I have your cell phone number, and we'll send you a message when the food's up. They key it into the POS system, and the guest goes on their merry way, and whenever the kitchen display screen has that order bumped off to make it go away so they can work on subsequent orders after that one, it automatically sends out that text message to the guest to come up and get their food. So the bottom line for me, I don't recommend pagers. There is no great brand. Because if you want to get a brand that's going to stand up to the punishment of it being handed to kids, you're looking at a pager system that's going to cost several $100s. Not the couple of $100 that people are paying right now. Amazon has a whole bunch that are $250 and less. But if you want a real system that's going to hold up like they use at the sit-down restaurants or that Whataburger used to use, you're going to be paying well over $1,000 for that system. But it will stand up to the punishment. But like I said, most of us in the food truck world tend to be cheapskates. So I can't justify saying buy a pager system. I can justify getting Easy Eats because it's an all-inclusive system. I don't have to deal with buying a pager system at all. The bottom line for me is not to use pagers. They will have to be replaced regularly. They become dirty. They become disgusting. They present challenges in multiple truck situations when there's too few channels available to all the different food trucks. And again, the broadcast range is ridiculously inconsistent and often too short on the cheaper brands. So for me, I would not buy a pager system. I would get Easy Eats, and I would get into the modern age. Thank you guys so much for listening to the 10-Minute Food Truck Training Podcast. If you're finding all the information helpful to your food truck business, please become a monthly supporter of the podcast. Just hit the support button or follow the link in the description. Every little bit does help keep us going. Join our Facebook group. It's called Food Truck Training. We have a whole bunch of awesome members at all different levels, from brand new beginners to decades-old veterans. They all have your back when it comes to helping you with your food truck. And again, thank you for listening. Come back tomorrow because I got plenty more to say when it comes to helping you and your food truck business grow.